Welcome to Impacting Jamaica, where we spotlight the many but often ignored positive happenings, activities, projects, and investments at every level across every sector to inspire, motivate, and excite people everywhere. Impacting Jamaica is powered by the Flow Foundation.
Thank you for joining Impacting Jamaica. I'm Tamika Gordon. The country is now firmly in the grip of a dengue outbreak. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has also informed the nation that the outbreak could get worse. He has also urged citizens to help to eradicate mosquito breeding sites. The minister has also urged Jamaicans to be mindful of general public health concerns, noting that our actions, particularly garbage disposal, affects us all. I'm sure we have all probably seen people throw garbage out their car windows or seen old tires thrown along roadways and in townships. Up to November 1st, there were 694 confirmed cases of dengue, with type 2, the strain type 2, continuing to be the dominant strain. There were 9 dengue-related deaths, 7 classified as suspected, and 2 as confirmed. We want to take a look at these issues in today's episode of Impacting Jamaica. I'm joined by Ricardo Woolery, Acting Chief Public Health Inspector for Clarendon, Ms. Denise Greenwood, Program Specialist for Vector Control, also in Clarendon, to discuss the role of government in stemming the dengue outbreak. We're also joined by Romeo Mitchell, President of the Maypen Development Area Committee, and Alphonso Lewis from the Longville Park Community Development Committee to give us their take on how citizens can help with the public health concerns and also what other areas they'd want the government to be mindful of. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great, thank you all for joining. I want to start by asking Mr. Woolery, why do we keep coming back here with regard to dengue? Is there something that, as a country we're not doing?
Well, I would say that generally people are not aware. I think they well, not so much aware, but they know that dengue impact us. But for some reason, I believe that persons don't grasp the seriousness of the issue when we're talking about dengue. So, and in reality, most persons who get dengue, they would recover without have to go to the doctor. So sometimes people don't really see it necessary, to employ the necessary prophylaxis or preventative methods to, protect themselves. So I think it's just we need to sensitize the public a little bit more, because when people do get sick, when we progress to the dengue hemorrhagic stage and other more serious forms of dengue, that is where, I would want to say we as Jamaicans, we don't take anything serious until it gets serious. But that is the general thing with the public, that they, once they believe that it's not so serious, or I have a good chance of getting through this without any adverse effect to, on myself, then, they would just tend to have it as a priority.
Yeah, take it more seriously.
Right.
Yes. How would you describe Jamaicans in terms of their overall response to public health? Is it that we're, as with dengue, we don't take it as seriously, but is that also the case with general public health issues?
I would say yes, or to an extent. Some person, it depends on which area of the population or segment of the population you're asking. You have some persons, you'll find that the more educated people are, they tend to have, a more interest in their personal health and their environment. But generally, as you step down the social ladder, people tend to have different priorities. I don't believe it is a matter of that people are not concerned, but most times what they find, some persons, especially in the lower social classes, people are more interested in how am I going to get through today, how am I going to find the next meal and so forth. And not only with dengue, But even when it comes down to, I mean, this is about dengue, when it comes down to non-communicable diseases, for example, your pressure and your sugar, general public health, people don't tend to take it seriously until it gets acute. Where when I say acute, until it's affecting them directly. So the preventative aspect, and I think it's more a case where their priorities are just not in the long run. They're more interested in the short run. The next meal that I was trying to explain, or how am I going to get the kids to school and so on.
Okay, let me throw now to our citizen guests, the citizen representatives. Mr. Mitchell, I'll start with you by asking first, Mr. Woolery spoke of being mindful of public health concerns and the need to sensitize. What do you think that we need as citizens from the government and policy makers to bridge that divide? What do you think that they need to do to jolt our attention? Or is it that as citizens, we just need to wake up?
First of all, I think that as citizens, we really need to wake up, and I think we need to nip it from the bud, and that is in the schools. Because as former PTA president, I realized that there are things that we could do as parents and also as teachers, who is a subsect of government, and they are just not doing it. I mean, simple as picking up that bottle and putting it into the bin, understand, or crush the bottle, or put the some holes in the can, you understand? These are the things that we are not enforcing on our youths or children, and they grow up to be adults, and they really don't do it to their kids either. So that is something that we really need to instill.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I must also let you know I'm the acting president for the Longville Park CDC.
Oh, great. Sorry.
That's okay. I agree with Romeo. I think, we said that Jamaica, no problem, but I guess that's for the tourists to come here. But we have a big problem, a huge problem. And it's not going to take one sector of society to have it solved. It's going to take it's a multi-pronged, a collaborative effort in that Romeo spoke about, from the school level. But even if children are taught in school, you're still going to have them coming home. And if the homes that they are coming into is not disciplining them enough to ensure that certain things are being done. You're driving in a car and you see the adult driving and the adult throw the wrapper outside. The child does the same thing as well. So it's gonna take the approach of both the authorities to do what they need to do, in that they continue to raise their awareness. But in terms of teaching, it is going to start from the home, as well as to ensure that, I don't know, probably entrench it into the curriculum as well. But a culture shift needs to be made. Because I must tell you, I was guilty of that, in terms of, not being such aware. And it's since I started taking up certain leadership role, I realized the magnitude of the problem. So I make it my duty, right, to always ensure that I teach and I encourage persons not to litter, and to also take things seriously before it reaches their doorsteps. I think that's what it's going to take.
Yes, Mr. Wood, you are agreeing?
I am in agreement. I remember some of the things that I learned when I was in primary school. I remember specifically when some persons came from NRCA at the time, NEPA, and they talked about the manatees and support. And I think that is where it all began for me to get into environmental health and public health. So if we target the kids and set the right example, I think the future will be better.
But we seem to talk a lot about targeting the kids and targeting, entrenching certain things or inculcating certain things in citizens from they're very young, but it doesn't seem to work. Are we now at the stage where we need to legislate certain things to actually say by law, in terms of a community, these are some, policies or laws rather that must happen? Do you think we're now at the stage where we need to legislate some things?
I think that the Public Health Act and its legislations are adequate to deal with these issues. However, there's always a constraint with respect to human resources, so you can't be there all the time. And we see this with the police and other agencies that regulate. So it really comes down to us. We don't want to be the police or the health police or the environmental health police behind people. We want to get to the stage where, as Mr. Lewis said, where people, we have a culture change. Change where it's deep in the society, where people know that these actions, these negative things are just not acceptable. We get to the point where, we behave like the Americans or the other developed worlds, because as you know, when we as Jamaicans, we go overseas, we conform to the status quo. So we just need to have a little bit more civic pride and know that this is our island. It's beautiful. We know it's valuable. So we should just get to the point where we want to protect it. That's just it.
I think we're going to need some activities, though. That's what I'm trying to ferret out. What sort of activities? Because we have 4-H in schools, we have clubs and societies, we have those things, but yet we are still where we are. What sort of activities do we need to get Jamaicans to wake up? Ms. Greenwood, do you have any suggestions?
All right. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me. Yes, for the activities that can assist in reducing the likelihood of a dengue outbreak, as we're having now, we could have a cleanup campaign across the schools. There are a number of schools across Jamaica with accumulated old furniture that need to be removed. So I think something could be put in place for that, seeing that our students are the ones that are greatly affected by the disease at this time. We could have working with the clubs within schools. Recently, we visited an institution and we work with them in doing a search and destroy of their school and showing them the mosquito life cycle. That's something that we want to do for more schools across the parish. So some of the other agencies, they have a responsibility as well, where we could work together to reach out to some of the citizens across Clarendon.
So my other question to you guys from public health is, what are some of the other things that we are guilty of as a country or as citizens outside of creating mosquito breeding sites for ourselves? What else is it that we are guilty of that you would want us to, to pay attention to? What are some of the public health concerns?
In terms of the overall knowledge, going out there and educating the public, we find that it's not that they don't know what to do, but that push to get it done is one of the greatest problems we're finding. Say, for example, they have their own water storage barrels on their home, which they need to scrub to remove the mosquito eggs, because we let them know that it can stay there for many months, and wait water for the continuity of the life cycle of the mosquito. Yes. They fail to do these simple things. They fail to manage solid waste, but they can tell you the effect that it will have. So it's just that extra push sometimes. And I don't know what will give that extra push. Even though this disease is not just limited to Jamaica, it's a global problem. There's a 30-fold increase in the presence of a dengue disease across the world.
Interesting.
So it's not just Jamaica. 100 endemic country with small numbers existing. We had small numbers before we explode to this outbreak that we're currently having. But it's just to get people to play their part.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Woolery.
I may jump in a little bit. When you asked me the first question, I want to know that we really need to have the infrastructure in place to facilitate the change that we need. So, for example, we have challenges. We have many challenges in this country. For example, we might have from time to time in different areas and to different degree challenges with water supply. So, for example, you have people storing water in the rural areas, and we have situations where we have less garbage collection, or
none in some cases.
none in some cases, like especially in the rural areas. And these are the areas that are mostly affected by disease, like such as vector disease and so forth. Now, when you think about climate change also, we realize that this is having a significant impact on the incidences and the prevalence, meaning how much and to what extent we have diseases prevalent in our environment. And all of us can attest to the fact that each year it seems as if things are just getting worse and worse. So we really have to strengthen the social base. For example, as I said earlier, people, if you are concerned with what's the next meal, where's the next meal coming from, you're not going to have, say, for example, mosquito control as a priority.
Time to go scour my vase on my veranda. I'm not thinking about that. To go through the water.
That is a priority.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about covering the barrels, some persons can't even, don't even have a proper barrel. If you see some of the storage containers they have, they're not even proper containers that you can really cover them. Yes, not that I'm finding an excuse for people, but it's just the reality that in the areas that are most affected, these are real issues, and they are social issues that we have to lift the population from, garbage collection, health education, making environmental health a priority in the schools and so forth. We could name a long list of things, but it's a process, and we at the health department right across Jamaica, we are committed to doing our part to enabling that process, to so that we can get to a point where we want to be.
Mr. Lewis, what say you in terms of the points that Mr. Woolery has just made in terms of the concerns that emanate from societies and the garbage communities, rather, with the garbage collection and the and those things, and the infrastructure that needs to be put in place?
Yes, thank you for that. Well, recently, we have been back and forth with the municipal corporation in our community to have bulky waste be collected. Thankfully, it has started this week, since yesterday, and we expect it to continue throughout the remainder of the week. But we do from time to time have garbage disposal challenges based on what the authorities are saying. But aside from that, even if our garbage are being collected every week and the bulky waste are being collected each time they are there, there's still an inherent issue that we as citizens are having, and that is that basic civic pride.
Right.
I have been to functions where you provide a garbage bag and the individual just drop it at their feet. That like thing, and I keep saying this, we have to own this thing. Even if the authorities teach us all those awareness sessions and everything, even if we do a garbage collection campaign and clean up Jamaica, if the residents, the citizens who are, putting it back there, if they don't see where they have a part to play, the authorities will have to come back the next day and do the same thing, and it cannot continue. I heard Mr. Woolery speak about the challenge in enforcing the law. Probably they need to look back and to find some other means, electronic medium, camera system, whatever it takes. But we as citizens, we need to make a culture change. And while I take the authorities at task, I'm saying I am holding my Jamaican citizen to become more and more responsible, as we can make a huge difference in cleaning up this country from this garbage.
Mr. Mitchell?
Okay, so earlier we spoke about what we can do to make a change. And I know in Clarendon there are several communities that JC could have impacted, and they have environmental wardens. And I know that children loves to get responsibility. And I remember going to primary school, and when you're given the responsibility to even monitor the class, who talks, whatever. And if you should have environmental wardens in school, this could make a difference also. If you can teach them how to use even the same bottles to make something that can bring forth some funds, because children love to generate their own cash.
Right.
And we are looking at even the recycling with the bottles. Many times, even Mr. Lewis can tell you, we will see them in schools for months with no pickup. You will see them in schools until it reach into the garbage truck.
As in the bottles you see in the schools?
The bottles that that should be slated for recycle.
The PET bottles.
Those bottles, they end up reaching into the garbage trucks
Because they're not collected.
not being collected. And at the same time, even though there's cash behind it or prizes, they to take it from point A to point B, which is Kingston or the nearest recycle area, it is so costly. So that's a system that needs to be set up in Clarendon to accommodate such.
Very good point indeed in terms of the recycling and of the bottles and stuff. But do we need to look at systems, for example, ticketing systems like in Canada? You go, if you drop something on the ground, there's a fine, and it's a hefty fine. Nobody wants to fork out $500, $200, 300 Canadian dollars to pay for dropping a piece of paper on the ground. Mr. Woolery, is that something that we're going to have to do?
Let me speak on that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Mitchell, and then over to you, Mr. Woolery.
I remember I would have headed the municipal police team some years ago at the municipal corporation, and there is a system that we would charge for littering. And because this is something that needs to be created, as I said, environmental wardens that get paid to do these things and to ticket people. I mean, the government has a responsibility to create these opportunities. All right. And it's not being created. And at the same time, they have to be gazetted. And our municipal police, they were gazetted at the time. I don't know if they're gazetted. No.
Okay.
So when you ticket someone and you take them to court, the case throughout. Because you can't ticket this person. So this is something that they need to work on also.
Mr. Woolery?
Well, we have in health explored ticketing option. It's a viable option if the infrastructure is in place to support it. And that is where we need some assistance.
Well, we need Bolipa infrastructure, man, Mr. Woolery.
Right. That is it, because it don't make sense to write, as Mr. Mitchell said, it doesn't make sense to write a ticket and then there's no way to collect. Who's going to collect? You know, and how is the enforcement part of it going to go, and so forth. So I mean, we have the ideas, and we have to remember our developing world context. So not that we are from the policy level. I am not working at the policy level. So those persons working at the policy level would have to come up with these, you know,
and get on top of those things,
right? In terms of these things, but with respect to what we can do at the local level is that we can work with what we have in that. And let me bring out a simple point here. Sometimes in this country, we know have a problem with, how should I frame it now? Unplanned developments, right? And sometimes what you find that is that people construct houses in areas that they ought not to be. So for example, well, when one is seeking to build a house, for example, many times persons don't consider the environmental impact in that area. For example, you know, is this area one that has a lot of mosquitoes naturally? Just to give an example.
Yeah.
And
Like a swamp or a runoff
like a
area.
swamp or, you know,
Yes,
so forth.
yes.
So we, at the local level, we can enact zoning laws to say, you know, certain things should not be in certain areas. And
Mhm.
when we build, and this is a serious issue that we're facing, and we need to really address it properly in the medium to long run. When you build, for want of a better word, ad hocly, you know.
It is
you
ad
have-
hocly, yes.
You know, we have challenges with waste collection. We have challenges with mosquitoes and other nuisances, maybe rodents, leptospirosis. There are so many environmental impacts, you know, contamination of groundwater and so on. So we really have to get a hold on some basic things like that, you know, garbage collection, water and sanitation and so forth, just by where these communities are located and the unorganized way that they're developed. You
Yes,
know, in
indeed.
this sort of situation. So,
In-
you know, we have a lot of work to do, and it's up. We have to continue to impress on the policymakers to enable, because while I agree with Mr. Lewis that the residents of Jamaica, we individuals has to take an individual has to take responsibility for their actions. However, the state has the responsibility to ensure that it facilitates good behavior, you know,
Indeed.
which it needs. So
Indeed.
it's a twofold. We have to put in place infrastructure, and the residents need to do what they have to do. And we believe, based on evidence, when we go overseas, we confirm because infrastructure is in place.
So that seems to be the clincher.
Right? You don't have
That
an
seems
excuse
to be
not
the
to.
clincher, because we can behave. We
We
know
can
how
behave.
to behave. We just don't behave because we are allowed to misbehave.
Right.
And when we
Allowed.
misbehave, there are no sanctions, there are no penalties to bring us back in line. That seems to be the issue. Yes, indeed. We're taking a break now to hear from our sponsors.
Hi! Oh, where's everybody? Well, Jackson is doing homework. Atlas and Oz are playing games. Ivy is taking a nap. Of course, Wayne and Gio are doing Wayne and Gio things.
They can't stop this.
Your Wi-Fi is so strong.
Home internet with smart Wi-Fi gives us wall-to-wall connectivity.
With Yacht and Road Plus, get gig speed, fiber fast internet, smart Wi-Fi, plus unlimited mobile on the go. All for the special offer of only $6,999 plus GCT a month. Visit a Flow store today.
Welcome back. I'm speaking with Acting Chief Public Health Inspector for Clarendon, Mr. Woolery. I'm speaking also with Denise Greenwood, Program Specialist for Vector Control, and Citizen Representatives Romeo Mitchell and Alphonso Lewis regarding public health concerns and the current dengue outbreak. So we were discussing that the conformity is an issue because citizens are allowed to flout the Public Health Act and do as they please. And, you know, we really need to put some infrastructure in place so that they are forced to conform. I want to ask my guests as well. I want to ask all of you, how do you think Jamaica compares when it comes to public health with our regional counterparts? We may have traveled to the States, to the US, and to other Caribbean countries. Where do you think we are on the spectrum of public health generally? Mr. Woolery, let me start with you, because you know you would probably be in a better position to have attended some symposium or some studies that would talk about that.
I believe we are doing pretty well for a developing country. In general, for example, this year we're in an outbreak, a dengue outbreak. And if you look at the numbers, you really wonder if we're in an outbreak. Because generally, when you talk about an outbreak, you'd expect numbers in the tens of thousands or so forth, you know? But it just goes to say, that we are able to have such control over our factors, our situation. Let me say, we are able to have such control over our situation where we can declare an outbreak when our numbers are low, because we are able to bring down our indices. For example, let me break it down a little bit. when we're experiencing an outbreak, and seeing that we're on dengue, let me use that example. We have our normal levels that we expect in the population. So for a country like maybe somewhere in Africa or elsewhere that has this control over this matter, their numbers would say be 50. Let's give an example, a loose example. So if they have 50 cases, say per week, they would consider that normal. In our situation, if we have maybe say 5 cases, we would consider that normal. So we are in a better position because we are moving. Jamaica has been developing, and we have been making strides in health, in infrastructure, in almost every sector in Jamaica, with respect to the quality of life and the social development on the ground. So I would say we're in a good position. It's just that we need to push a little bit further to, get to that place that we want to be in terms of, basic infrastructure, basic municipal services that everyone needs to have access to. So I believe we are in a good place. I don't know if Ms. Greenwood has anything to add to that.
What say you, Miss Greenwood?
All right. Yes, we are seeing some growth. And I still think individuals have that responsibility that they need to know that I have this responsibility to do my weekly search. Take that time, that 15 minutes once per week to look around my environment. We're not having that being done at all times. As I mentioned earlier, persons know what to do, but it's just they're not
doing it,
taking that time to do it. And yes, the country is growing.
Where it comes to public health.
When it comes
Yes.
out.
Okay, we have just a few minutes to wrap up. Mr. Lewis, Mr. Mitchell, let me throw it to you. Where do you think we rank as a country? And what are your parting words of encouragement to fellow Jamaicans?
I think we are doing well. Well, even if we didn't know how to manage public health, COVID alone would have taught us quite a lot. Because I went to a business place yesterday and I was shocked to see the young man. He was giving me the hand sanitizer to sanitize my hands, which is telling me that it is still happening, which is good. I also believe that we're blessed because it's like we're benefiting from a system that struggles as a developing country. And at the same time, when you look at another country of same, size, probably similar resource, they may be doing more. But I don't know for what reason why Jamaica just smack in this era where so many things we are able to attain with limited resources. My parting word is that let us not use that to become comfortable, because usually, this is what reality dictates, you reap what you sow. So if you are reaping a lot and you are not sowing a lot, you need to find out why is it you are reaping so much, because maybe one day it may just run out.
Yes, indeed.
I think we need to just wake up and realize that.
Mr. Mitchell, you get the last minute or so.
Yes, so as our other participant has said, we are doing pretty well, and that's true. And I'll just start by saying that let us be creative in how we use even the old tires and the bottles. We can create some nice gardens in our schools, in our communities. Just be creative and don't let it lay around and create for us.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. I want to thank you all for taking the time out for joining Impacting Jamaica and for sharing your views on how we can improve our communities and control the dengue outbreak as citizens. Mr. Woolery, any parting words from you in about 30 seconds?
Right, I just want to say, we, as you have been saying, take the time out to get active, be active in your role to prevent diseases, to prevent mosquito-borne diseases. And just before you go, I just want the public to know that, remember, the Aedes aegypti mosquito, that one mosquito, is responsible for dengue fever, yellow fever, chikungunya, and Zika. So that one mosquito is responsible, can be a transport agent, a vector for 4 diseases. So it's not a joke, and everybody can remember about chickpea and what impact that had on us.
I can testify.
Right? So we want to do our part. Don't put it off for the long run. Act today. Make sure that, as Ms. Gordon said, you go and you search your premises for mosquito breeding sites and you destroy those premises. We are doing our part as the health department. We have employed temporary vector control workers. In Clarendon, we have 80, along with our permanent staff. They go out in the communities, they educate, they destroy these mosquito breeding sites. Allow us on your premises. Don't give us resistance when we come to enter the premises, when we come with fogging and so forth. And you have to play your part. We have to play our part. Let's work together so that we can have a better Jamaica and a disease-free Jamaica.
Indeed. Thank you all so much for joining Impacting Jamaica. It has indeed been a very fruitful conversation. Blessings for the rest of your day.
Impacting Jamaica is powered by the Flow Foundation. If you or anyone you know is involved with projects and activities that excite, motivate, and encourage, email us at impactingjamaica@gmail.com. That's all one word, impactingjamaica@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.